Hi guys, my name is Stacey. Welcome to the Design Shepherd channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my review of this amazing gadget here. What exactly is this though? So is it a bread maker, you ask? Is it an air fryer? No, it's not. It's actually a smart compost maker. Now, I first heard about this gadget probably autumn time last year, and I thought it sounded like a really neat idea, but I didn't really think anything more of it until springtime, sort of like May, June time came around, and it was really hot and sunny outside, and the food waste that we leave outside in the garden until the council come and collect the green waste every week started to get really stinky, started to attract flies. The really rank, putrid bin juice that was forming from the food waste decomposing during the week in the hot sunshine started to get really quite disgusting. And then there was the fact that we had to clean the bin caddies every week, the waste caddies every week, to get rid of all of this disgusting bin juice and stop maggots from coming into the bins. Triggered my memory that there was a smart kitchen waste composter on the market that would effectively get rid of all of those issues. So I reached out to Lomi and asked them if I could receive a sample product of this smart composter so that I could give it a go and see if it would help me overcome some of those issues that I was having with my food waste. Now, one of the first issues that I had with the Lomi was wondering if the size of it would be slightly too large for my kitchen. I have a rather small kitchen, and my husband and I are big tech fans. We do like a gadget or two, so we have a microwave, an air fryer, a coffee machine, kettle toaster. We have a bread maker already, so the surface space in our small kitchen is already, taken up quite a fair bit with a lot of these gadgets, and we end up swapping them in and out and storing them while they're not in use. So that was my first issue with this. Would it be too large for the kitchen? And I was actually pleasantly surprised, because when you look at it, it's actually not that much bigger than a bread maker or an air fryer. So from that point of view, it's comparable to other gadgets that you might have in your kitchen. Another issue that I had with the prospect of having a smart home kitchen composter was whether or not it would get a lot of use. Now, in our household, we don't actually have a lot of food waste. My husband is very good. He does all the cooking in our home. Probably 5 days a week he does the cooking. He's great at using up leftovers. He's very inventive with cooking. So we don't actually have a lot of food waste in our household. So we actually have a small Joseph kitchen caddy in our kitchen, which I will link to below if you'd be interested in seeing what we use. And we also use these small biodegradable bags in there. So they're 100% compostable, made from bioplastic. And we probably tend to fill about 2, possibly 3 bags a week. So it's 2 on an average week, 3 if we've been a bit lax with checking up on what's going out of date and we might have a bit of surplus food that we have to throw out. So it's not masses of waste that we are creating. So we were wondering whether or not it would be good value, because this machine actually retails in the UK on the Lomi website for £499. So it isn't a cheap purchase. And our council takes away our green organic waste for free on a weekly basis. So actually there's not a lot of food waste that we have to deal with that needs to be disposed of each week. So there was a question over whether or not it would produce good value for money to be composting food waste that gets taken away for free by the council anyway. Now, one thing I really liked about the Lomi Smart Kitchen Composter was the ease of use. I am not really a fan of tech that takes you extended periods of time to work out how to use, and that is extremely complicated. I want something that is straightforward. I want the tech to make my life easier and to take away some of the stress of having to do things manually. So for me, this was brilliant because it is super easy to use. You have the lid, you literally take the lid off, pop the food waste in, lid goes back on, and then you have your button here. Now this button, again, extremely easy to use. You simply press it down and hold it down for a couple of seconds so that it chooses what program it wants to go on. Keep holding it, it will change to the next one, change to the next one. There are 3 settings for you to use on the Lomi Smart Kitchen Composter. You have an eco mode, which takes approximately 5 hours to break down your food waste into compost. You have a bioplastics mode where you can put bioplastics and other biodegradable household waste that has been approved by Lomi into the composter. That can take up to 8 hours. And then you have got the grow mode, and the grow mode is longer and it is operating at a lower temperature so that it helps to retain a lot of the nutrients in the food waste so that you can then use this compost to fertilize your household plants or your garden plants. So what kind of things can we put into the Lomi to change into compost? Well, it's pretty much all the things that you would put into your green waste food caddy anyway. So you can put your fruit and vegetable peelings and scrapings, you can put any leftovers from your dinner plate straight in there, you can put coffee grounds in there, eggshells in there, you can put bread in there, pasta in there, you can put any dairy products in there, you can put clippings from your house plants or from your garden plants. You can put coffee filters in there, you can put meat scraps, you can put soft bones in there, so say the bones from fish. But there are certain things that you should not put in your Lomi Kitchen Smart Composter. These are things like larger, harder bones, chicken bones for example. You shouldn't put any oil or grease or fat into the Lomi Composter. You shouldn't put any fruit pits, so if you've been eating peaches or avocados, they should not go into the composter. You shouldn't put any soap, shampoo or cleaning products in here. You shouldn't put any baby wipes, cigarettes, what else shouldn't you put in here? You shouldn't put any pet waste in here. Just generally things that you wouldn't put in your green caddy anyway, you shouldn't put in here. When adding food waste to your Lomi, it may be a good idea to cut large pieces down into smaller pieces and to just be aware of the ratio of dry food versus wet food that you're putting in. Products like watermelon or cucumber, for example, that have really high water content should be interspersed with a lot of dry food. So according to the Lomi instructions, you shouldn't leave your food waste to stand for a week or more. So you really want to be running your Lomi cycle at least once a week before the food starts to get really rotting and decaying before you put it in. If necessary, you can run the cycle more often, so you can do a half cycle, you can do it as small as you want. So if you don't have very much waste and you need to do it more often, that's perfectly fine. There is a line along the top of the bucket here that shows you the 75% mark, and you really shouldn't overfill this because there is a maximum level that is clearly shown on the bucket. Interestingly, one thing that I did read on the Lomi website is that you can run a cycle, create the compost, leave the compost in the bucket, and then add another lot of fresh food to the top and run the cycle again. And you can do this up to 3 times. So when the Lomi is composting your food, you actually get an 80% reduction in the volume that is in the bucket. So it will go from being full, almost full, up to that 75% mark, down to just a couple of inches of compost. So you can run multiple cycles without emptying it, which can be really handy if you don't actually have anywhere to store it and you are only going to take it out for the council once a week. Now, when it comes to the grow mode, that leaves the extra nutrients in the compost, you also receive with your Lomi the Lomi pod. Now these are small capsules that are compost accelerators, so I'll just show you what that looks like. You get a tiny little tablet like this which accelerates the composting process. So you can pop these in to your Lomi when you run the grow mode, and it will ensure that your plants will get a nutrient-rich output whilst it reduces your waste. And when you are using the compost that you have produced using the grow mode, you want to use that at a ratio of 1 part Lomi dirt to 10 parts regular soil. So it isn't to be used completely to repot your plants or instead of soil. You need to make sure that you have the right ratio so that it really helps your plants to grow. So it's 1 part Lomi dirt to 10 parts soil. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the bioplastics mode. So you can put compostable, biodegradable packaging waste into the Lomi. As I said, it takes slightly longer. It takes 5 to 8 hours on that cycle. So it does take a little bit longer to break down the bioplastics. However, it's a great way to get rid of the packaging, and actually the packaging that came with the Lomi, so the bag that it came in, the bioplastic bag, can even be composted when you do your first cycle. When you put the bioplastics in, it's always best to shred them up. So for example, after 3 bags of this, I reuse the same bag in a week when I'm doing my food waste. So I pop this into my Joseph caddy, fill it up once, pour it into the Lomi, fill it up again, pour it into the Lomi, and if I need a third time, fill it up again. And on the third time, I'll do the bioplastics cycle. And what I do is I simply cut this bag up. It's usually dripping and gopping and really disgusting by then, but I cut it up into small pieces and then I put that into the Lomi. And the secret is to not put it down the bottom where it could get caught around the mechanism, but just gently put it around the sides, lining the bucket so that it has a really nice, easy rotation inside that bucket with the mechanism. So when it comes to the Lomi approved packaging that can be composted in the device, there are lots of products that are listed on the Lomi website that have been approved by Lomi to actually go into this product. So you are looking at things like, you see sandwich bags, certain types of sandwich bags, resealable food storage bags, cutlery that can be composted that's biodegradable, paper straws, sugar cane can go in here, compostable mailers can go in here, Nespresso capsules, resealable bags. Yeah, so there's plenty of products that can actually go into here, but you do have to check that they have been Lomi approved because not everything will be able to be broken down by this machine. But it generally can compost a lot of products that can't even be composted in normal composting methods. So it is a really, really useful function. And when you are putting bioplastics into your Lomi composter, you don't just put them in on their own. They go in with the regular food waste at a ratio of about 10%. So you need to use 90% regular food waste with 10% bioplastics. One of the concerns that I had when we started testing the Lomi, from reading some of the other reviews, is whether or not the compost that results from running these cycles would actually smell, because the food waste in itself smells. If I was going to use this as a solution for that, I didn't want compost that would smell, that I'm having around the house and keeping until I dispose of it or use it up. So I was very wary as to whether or not the compost itself would smell, and I wanted to do some experiments to see if the smell changes depending on what food waste you actually put into the machine. I am really happy to report that I didn't find any offensive smells coming from the compost that was produced from our Lomi. Now, as I said, we don't have a lot of food waste, so we don't tend to waste a lot of meat, a lot of fish, a lot of dairy. So the things that you might think would be more smelly, we don't tend to waste so much of that. Ours is mostly peelings, it's mostly the end scraps of the plate. It might be a little bit of pasta, it might be the crust of the bread that the children haven't eaten. So we don't tend to have a lot of smelly food, but I did actually try to incorporate some more smelly foods when I was running some of the cycles, just to see what would happen. But there really wasn't much odour to the compost that we created. Now you can see here that the Lomi is full of compost that I've created. It is just like dirt. You can identify some of what is in here. You can see the eggshells, you can see the skin of avocado, you can see orange peel in here, I can detect onion skin, but really it doesn't smell that bad at all, and it certainly wouldn't put me off using a Lomi. So the Lomi has 2 filters that it comes with. If I take the lid off here, I can show you that we have a filter here in the back. And this is full of charcoal pellets, which helps to stop any nasty smells that might be emanating from your Lomi. And also at the back here, we have another filter, which you can see here. Again, full of the charcoal pellets. If you do find that your Lomi is starting to smell slightly, or the compost is starting to smell, then you may need to check your filters, because those charcoal filters are the ones that remove the odours from the air in the Lomi. So you may need to just replace those to make sure that the odours are being dealt with appropriately. You should actually know when you need to change the charcoal filters, because there is a light down here that will illuminate once you need to change the filter, but generally the filters will last between 3 and 6 months before they'll need changing. So all in all, I have been extremely happy with the Lomi Smart Kitchen Composter. I think this is great value for money, even though it's very expensive at £499. I think this is a great investment for our family, and I will continue to use this throughout the summer. I may not use it quite as often in the winter, just because we don't have that same problem with the food waste being outside in that heat, in that blazing sunshine, and really getting quite as disgusting as it does in summer. So that might be something that I decrease use in the winter months. But if you live somewhere where it is warm most of the time, then this could be a really great solution for avoiding that really unhygienic, disgusting food waste that is just rotting outside your house. With the current energy crisis and the elevated energy prices, it isn't obviously the cheapest way to compost your food waste, and you could do that in your garden. But again, as I said at the beginning, it is all about the perception of value and how much effort you want to put into your composting. For me, this is a super quick, easy way to get rid of the food waste a couple of times a week, store it in a medium that doesn't smell, that is clean, that is hygienic, easy to store. And I think that this is going to work really, really well for our family.